लाइव हो जाएगा तो बताइएगा। मैं शुरू करूं? So good afternoon, learners. Welcome to this for the course on Introduction to Cognitive Psychology. Now, this course is a 12-week course, and it's been designed for people who are interested in learning the basis of cognition and cognitive psychology. The course is helpful both for undergraduate students, graduate students, and postgraduate students. And it's beneficial both for people from academia as well as from the industry. Now, to get a question, I will share my idea behind building this course. So the reason I designed this course was to introduce people to the idea of cognition. What is it that we mean when we say that we are thinking? Or on a larger context, what is it that means when I use the famous proverb, I think, therefore I am? So what is it which is thinking? Not only that, the course also dwells upon questions related to how we see, how we make meaning of things that we see, hear, touch. It also talks about how we focus our concentration on certain objects and what are the limitations of this concentration. It talks about the process of memory. What is it? How do we store information? How do we access that information? And not only that, it also tells us in a very critique way, analyze the various information processing models of memory. Moving on, the course talks about how organization of information happens in the brain. We're both using the process of categorization and classification. And here is where the course takes a turn. Next comes up a section on language, because any knowledge that we have has to be shared or propagated using certain symbols, which are language. So we talk about the basics of language. What is it? Why it is essential? And why it is important. We move on to discussing a little bit of logical thinking in terms of what are the various ways of reasoning. And we end the course by looking at how people decide, what are the various models that people use to decide, and how does decision making actually progress in the real world. So all in all, the course is a specialized version of a combination of certain chapters, certain sections from the Introduction to Psychology course. So very specifically, we take out those portions from the Introduction to Psychology or Understanding Psychology course and we expand on that. So why is it important to do this course and what would you gain out of it? This course is an introduction, so it introduces you to the basics of cognition. It tells you what are the various aspects of cognition and how they are related to each other, and how one thing leads to another thing, how they are connected. It introduces you to the world of theory building in cognition and testing these theories. And in a very enthusiastic and easy manner, it tries to introduce you to the basics of cognition. Question 2, why we should enroll? It gives you benefit in terms of gaining knowledge and practicality. Other than that, the course is helpful both for people from academics and people from the industry. For academics, obviously, the course is an introduction and you can build upon this and learn more of cognition. You can probably go out for a PhD degree or maybe do a master's or learn more about various sections of cognition. For the industry, the course will provide you with a quick view of what different kind of models, what different kind of knowledges is available and how that can be used in redesigning systems or anything in machine which interacts with humans. So one field where this course is highly applicable is ergonomics, or the field of engineering psychology. People who study philosophy and study about the idea of theory of mind, for those people also, the course will be helpful in making you understand how this theory of mind, the idea of consciousness, how these things, they gel with the idea of how cognitive processes actually work. So why and what benefit it is going to give you? All in all, what I've tried to do is I've tried to give you a brief about what is in this course, what sections we are going to cover, why you should be taking it, what benefit are you going to get, and where you can apply it. Now comes the time where I'll start taking up questions which are put to me either on the YouTube chat or to the online forum. You can also put your question in this team meeting that I'm presently present in. And there is also an online question Excel sheet, which is floated by the NPTEL. You can put your question there. So all those people who are here with me, you've joined to this live session. It's an excellent opportunity to do a face-to-face integration, to do a face-to-face interaction, and disseminate some knowledge between us. With whatever knowledge I have about this field, and I understand that it's very limited, I'll try and solve or provide you hints on how questions which have been worrying you or questions which you would like to ask, how those can be solved. So I'll take my first question, which is through this online YouTube chat. And the question is how some people are more concentrated than others. Good question. And that's something which we've also discussed in our section on attention. So around you, you will see people. Some of them can pay more attention to certain things and others cannot. What is the reason? In very plain words, the quick answer to this is practice. The more you practice, the more you'll be able to concentrate on certain things. So what is it that you're going to practice? And also whether all types of materials will be benefited by practice. Again, the answer to this question is simple tasks will get benefited more practice, as in you can concentrate more on them. But complex tasks need not necessarily get benefited by more practice. But practice is the core. Now, how does practice actually improve concentration? The more you practice, the routines through which you perform that particular task or particular job, some of those procedures become automatic. And so the load is taken off, allowing you to be more accurate, having more available concentration power, mental resource, and able to solve more complex problems. Let me try and explain it through an example. So you're learning to ride a bicycle. Initially, when you're riding, all your concentration is focused on the bicycle and you wouldn't talk to other people and not do anything else. But as you progress more and more, part of this bicycling, which is handling the bicycle or the paddling, becomes automatic. So now you have more resource available, which you can divert to other things like talking. In comparison to people who are highly skilled riders, people who are low skilled riders, they will need to concentrate more. But people who have high skilled riders, they will need to concentrate less. Also, let's say crossword puzzle solving or Sudoku. Initially, you will take more time doing it. But the more practice you do, the more efforts you put into it, things starts becoming automatic to you. And so now you can put more of your concentration on that job and solve difficult questions. So the more practice you do, the more easy it will be for you to put your concentration on certain jobs, but increase your attention span for that particular task. And that was a question which was asked by Khushi Kumari. So I hope that answers your question. All those people who are connected with me here, I would encourage them to ask questions and provide feedbacks or suggestions regarding this course. In the meanwhile, let me take a question that has been put to me on the Introduction to Psychology response sheet, which was floated for asking question. Now, Ramya has a question. I'll read the question first. It says that we learn that bottom-up process or approaches is data-driven, whereas the top-down approach is motivational or theory-based or previous pattern stored in memory. When we see an object for the first time, there is no pattern or memory. In that case, we can say that top-down approach is the part of bottom-up approach, or the bottom-up approach is the root of all approaches. I have the same question with the template pattern. For example, a child sees an apple for the first time. So someone has to tell the child that it is an apple for the mental image or pattern to form. So where does the first learning impression come from? And it's a very interesting question. So where does the first seed of learning come from, or where do you learn it first from? Now, Ramya, if you remember, somewhere along the lecture, I told that bottom-up processes, they do not work on their own. Whenever we're doing perception, or whenever we are enjoying the process of perception, both top-down and bottom-up process, they work in sync. It is very difficult to let alone the top-down process. Let's take the example that you have given. So when you see something for the first time, and here I'll take the example of an apple. So when you see an apple for the first time, it's all bottom-up process. What you're saying is correct. So when a child sees an apple for the first time, what he does is he looks at the apple. The various processes in the eye informs the optic area of the brain, the occipital lobe, about the color, the form, the angle, rotation, and several other physical features about the apple to the brain. So the eye sends this information. The area which processes this information or integrates this information combines it in the right format and comes up with a mental picture or a mental representation. But remember that the child would have seen something which is round, something which is of the same color, or something which partially or to a certain extent aligns with what is called an apple. Also, when he sees an apple and he also tastes an apple, previously it has been taught to him that it is fruit. So this idea or this information that he has, this experience that he has, is in classifying the round thing in front of him, which he has never seen before, but it's called an apple, to be closer to a category of objects which has been previously stored in his head as an apple. The debate can be, how is the first thing actually stored in your head? And if you go by the idea of how philosophers look at it, some philosophers look at how the brain starts or the cognition, and they say that the brain comes with a tabula rasa or a mind which is not having any impression, a clean slate. That theory has been, it's sometimes widely accepted, and sometimes there is a lot of also critique to the theory. And whether the first learning is bottom up or top down, not very clear. it may be possible that certain information, inherent information, is passed down around the gene. So assuming that this is point t is equal to 0 when a child is born, and at this t equal to 0, accepting the reasoning of some philosophers that the brain comes with a blank slate, so you have nothing. The only possible option here would be that the child is born with certain processes or certain form of learning. And this has been proved. The visual cliff experiment clearly demonstrates that the child can see three-dimensional or has depth perception. Basically meaning that the child has no knowledge of what is depth and that he'll fall and get hurt. But this inherent knowledge is somewhere embedded or passed on his offspring, from the parent to the offspring. Certain shape perception ideas or shape perception of certain basic structures to be passed along in a hereditary, and from there perception really starts. So saying that top-down process is an extension of bottom-up process, or is built upon bottom-up process, is to a point correct. But then these processes of perception, attention, and the various models which explain it, for example, the template matching model, they say that this is so automatic and this happens so quickly that it's very difficult to distinguish where does bottom-up stop and the top-down start, or how much percentage the top-down and the bottom-up has in perception of something. So in all, the bottom line answer is that both processes work hand in hand, and they are both dependent and independent of each other. They are complementary to each other, and they complement in forming the perception. I hope that answers your question, Ramya. And I have Kanupriya. So good afternoon, Kanupriya. And so other people who are also here with me, I'd suggest that if you are here, you are welcome to ask questions regarding this course on cognitive psychology. And so Kanupriya has a question. I wanted to ask how functionalists are different from associationists in history of cognitive psychology. I could not understand the major difference. Okay, so thank you. And about the functionalist and associationist. So, Kanupriya, let me put it this way. The associationists are those people who associate two events A and B. Mostly they were behaviorists. And what they were looking at is how event A leads to B. For example, each time I give a reward, each time I give a sweet to a small child, he reads a book. This is forming association. The association is the book is not read by the child because of interest, but it is read by the child because the sweet is given. This is forming association. But instead of giving the sweet, if I punish the child will not read. This is again forming association, and this is called punishment. So reward and punishment. If I give sweet, the child reads, it's reward. If I give punishment, the child does not read or move away from reading, is punishment. And what these psychologists are trying to do is find out how reward and consequence are connected. Socialists are those people who try to combine an action and a reaction, an action or a consequence. And then they later on say that if the consequence is positive, the action will take will or the behavior will be repeated. But if the consequence of an action is negative, then people are not going to do that action. This is pure association. Now let's talk about function list. For understanding function list, I'll have to bring you in or in sync with what are structuralists. Structuralists are those people who believe that mainly they worked on consciousness. So they believe that behavior can be or human actions can be broken down into its pieces or subparts. Structuralists were mostly people who came in from the natural sciences, and so they believe that any behavior has a fundamental unit. If you take the fundamental unit, do some manipulation on it, you'll get the exact behavior. Now, this understanding that fundamental behavior or fundamental unit of behavior works for certain behaviors which are simple. For example, if I want to define your experience of how a cold drink would make you feel, I can define this using temperature, which defines cold, the drink itself in terms of its sugar content and other things. So these are chemical substances. And using the chemistry of the drink and the temperature, I can define how a cold drink would basically mean, or you can experience a cold drink. But suppose I want to define higher order uh, behaviors. For example, the feeling of warmth or the feeling of gratitude. These cannot be broken down into their physical parts. Feeling hot, feeling cold, cold drink, hot drink, enjoying chocolate, not chocolate, all those things can be broken down into chemical substances, because chocolate is basically composed of coca, where you can talk about this coca. So what is the ingredient and how it will taste and that kind of thing. But certain behaviors cannot be broken so easily broken down into parts. And that is where the structuralists fail. So they could not define behavior in terms of its fundamental structure. Some behavior, simple ones they could, I just explained, but complex ones they couldn't. Therein came the functionalist, people like William James. And what they said is, forget about breaking behavior into its part. Let's try and understand what is the use of a behavior. Why do people do what they do? For example, if you're angry, you shout at people. So what is the reason for shouting? What is the function of shouting? And they could understand that when you're angry with someone, it creates a negativity inside of you, a negative emotion, which disturbs your homeostasis, which disturbs your physical body in some way. It arouses you. And this act of shouting at others is catharsis. So it will release that anger. It will lower your homeostasis. It will bring your homeostasis to a basic level. And that is why shouting or cursing people when you're angry is a good behavior, or is a rather more acceptable behavior. So then shouting at others has a function. And this behavior of shouting at others can be explained in terms of its function, which is releasing your pent-up emotions. Like that, most behaviors can be expressed in terms of what utility or what function it has for you, rather than looking at behaviors in terms of pure structures, in terms of pure those elements which are predefined or physical in nature. And that is the difference between a structuralist and a functionalist. So structuralist tries to look at the fundamental object of a behavior. Functionalists, they look at why people are doing what they're doing and try to explain any behavior in terms of what functions it serves for them. And associationist says that forget all this thing. What I want to know is what action leads to what consequence. So behaviors can be expressed in terms of consequences. Somebody does something only when after doing that thing, he gets rewarded. If he gets punished, he'll not do it. If he gets rewarded, we'll do it. We are not interested in how somebody is doing something. So we're not interested in how this whole process of the child understanding the sweet as a reward and what does he do with it and how does he analyze the reward and how does it make him function or read the book, that we're not interested. We're only interested in finding out that each time you give a sweet to a child, he reads a book, and that's what we are interested in. So that is the difference between a functionalist, an associationist, and a structuralist. And I hope I could make things clear for you, Kanupriya, in terms of how these three schools of cognitive psychology, they differ from each other. Now, if we have other people who joined with me on this chat or on the YouTube page, I would welcome you to ask questions, whatever questions you have. And I don't see any more questions right now. So again, the need for the course and how is it useful. Over the years, when I've been teaching this course, I found out that it helps students in understanding about the way they think and they decide. It also helps students in developing projects which help them in completing their bachelor project or master project or deciding a career in terms of academics, completing a PhD. Over the years, I've also helped people from the industry in solving man-machine interactions or analyzing those situations in which an natural cognition works with an artificial cognition and natural intelligence works with an artificial intelligence. There is another course that I have, which is on engineering psychology. And the outline of the course is that machine should not be made in such a way that it forces user to use it. Rather, one principle design for making machines that help humans is to bear the inefficiency of humans or the errors of humans and provide them assistance. People should not be made to tolerate the machine, rather the machine should be made to tolerate human errors. And that is where this course is really helpful because what it helps you in doing is understanding the whole process of cognition and integrating them with artificial systems or machines which interact with humans. Not only that, it also helps you in answering some of the queries that you always have. For example, how do we see things? Why do we get into illusions? Why do illusions arise? In a two-off trade-off, which is the best strategy to choose? When there are several options in front of you, what logic should I be using to get the most optimum result if you find something new, how do we categorize it using the least of cognitive resources? If there is a problem in front of you, what approaches you should be using for solving this problem? What are the best methods of learning, and not only learning, but storing information in your head and accessing this information without failure or disruption at the time of need? What is the use of language, and what are the various rules of using a language? How do humans produce language, and why are we superior to other animals in that regard? All these questions that I've talked about, which most of you students would have gotten into your life, can be explained to understanding the basics of cognitive psychology. And that is what the course tries to answer it for you. Now, I'm still waiting for questions from people who have joined today's online session. Most of what I say is in the course, and once you are doing this course, you would be familiar of all those things I'm talking about as a part of the course. So I'm here for another 5 to 10 minutes. If no questions are put to me within that period of time, I'll probably log off. But don't worry, if you are here today and you didn't get an opportunity to ask your questions, or for some reason or some hesitation, if you've not asked your questions, there are multiple ways to put your questions to me. One of the most popular method of putting a question is asking this question on the course question forum, where somebody will take care of your question and try and answer it for you. Sweta Singh. So good afternoon, Sweta. Welcome to this online session. And not only that,
good
you can always put it. Yeah,
are you able to hear me?
Yes, I'm able to hear you. Could you speak a little bit louder?
Yeah, so I actually joined this course through NPTEL because I got myself enrolled to MA in psychology from IGNOU.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I am new to this course. My background is of BCom, and I worked as a team manager in one of the leading banks. However, I changed my career in 2017 and moved to arts. So I have done expressive art therapy as well. So what I'm trying to develop my career into is to become an art therapist. And to get a degree in art therapist, it is very important to learn psychology as a subject. That's how I'll be able to help people through art. Understanding their psychology. I have gone through your week one videos till now, and I could find that it is very interesting subject. Yes, the terms are very technical and needs an in-depth study, which I am doing at my end. So unfortunately, I might not have question right now because from my standpoint, I am just exposed to a new subject and I'm trying to grasp as much as I can to really form a foundation for learning this as a subject. So it would be great if you can give me some guidance that how I should progress.
Okay, Sweta. So pinpointed question. Now, if you have some time on your hand, there's one thing that I'll ask you to do, if you can, is there is another course which is called Human Behavior. It's basically an introduction to psychology course, which is developed by me. And the lectures you will find available on YouTube. I'd suggest if you have time on your hand, you should start with that course. because that course will expose you to the very basics of psychology, as in what it is.
Okay.
The present course, as I said, it is few sections from Introduction to Psychology that has been clubbed together and expanded.
Okay.
It's like we are studying, let's say, accounting, and one section of the accounting, if I take it out and expand it,
Yeah.
that is how cognitive psychology is. So we are studying commerce, and from there, if we take out accounting and study it specifically, it will become cognitive psychology. But if you are
Correct.
studying all courses in commerce, or if we are studying an introduction to how commerce works, that is introduction to psychology, which will tell you what the field is all about. So if you could watch some of the lectures from the human behavior section, you will at least get that basics correct, or would feel yourself more comfortable in getting into this course, because some of the terms that I use here is more easily explained in that course. That is a 101 course, so first year student course, and it goes to the very grassroots level of psychology. So if you can, in addition with this, just watch the lectures or read the transcripts which are provided, and that will tell you what it is. And then you can jump back to this course. Now, this course is more about, as I said, designing cognition. So designing machine systems, things like that. And it will also help you in deciding. So let's say that you as a banker might have come across situations where you are there in a meeting and you want to decide on which particular company to go to, and you're seeing too many prospects, or situations where both companies or 3 or 4 companies are offering the same kind of deal with you. So which you should be selecting. Therein comes the idea of using logic and using decisions. Should you be using your logical thinking in front, or using your emotional thinking in front? And that is the last section in this course, which tells you how do you make a balance between these two, so that you don't lose too much, but then you won't go too away from something that you like. So what should that balance be? And that is decision making, where we talk about we should not be deciding as in terms of what the market offers, but we should be deciding in terms of how we as humans should decide. And that's the plus point for you. Also, other things like languages, for example, what kind of language structure should we be using so that it impresses the client that we are dealing with. So I understand that these are taught to you, and so this is like a course that you always start. But then this will tell you why it works out, why that kind of a language actually works out. What does it do? What charm does it do? And so that kind of thing is what you'll get in this course. But understanding psychology, the other course on human behavior is going to lay the foundation for you. Integrate the two courses together, first that and this, and it'll be easier and much simpler for you to understand.
So can I get the course you are mentioning? Is it available on NPTEL right now? It
is available on NPTEL as well. It'll get floated, I think. It's there this year also, I think it's there. It's called Human Behavior.
Okay, I'll just search for it, and thank you so much. I will possibly do it in a quick way. I invest more time and create a foundation, and then progress with cognitive psychology.
Right. All the best for your future. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
So we have Kanupriya, and there's another question. So Kanupriya says, I am a BCom background, but I'm interested in cognitive psychology, so how can I explore it? So Kanupriya, as you would have heard, we're talking to Sweta, and I explained the same thing. The same things stands true for you. And another question that Kanupriya, I'm sorry, the first question was from Kusum Kumari about the BCom background. Kanupriya has a question which says that, could you give some insights on the current research going on the field of cognitive psychology, in which areas are worth pursuing for PhD? Okay, so Kanupriya, there's a lot of areas which are interested in, if you're interested in cognitive psychology, in a lot of new areas if you're looking for that, or I'd say uh, interesting areas. One interesting area that is presently a hot field is about the idea about how working memory works. Now, working memory is an extension of the concept of the short-term memory. And what it says is that instead of each time going to a long-term store, we can do a short interpretation. We can use a shortcut into doing it. Other areas are also available, are also interesting in this particular field. But if you could be a little bit more specific, as in cognition, what is it that actually interests you? Maybe we can discuss that area which interests you, or that section in cognitive psychology which interests you, and probably pinpoint a problem for you. And I think that should work. So if you can quickly tell me something which interests you in cognition, you've seen the parts of cognition or the sections of cognition, maybe we can just try and pin down an area which is recent, which is interesting, and or pin down a problem rather, which is interesting, which is recent, and which will help you in pursuing your PhD. Now, Sneha has a question, and that's I'm interested in studying cognition psychology and AI. So how should I move forward for it? To it, sorry. Okay. There's several ways of moving forward cognitive psychology and AI. And one of these ways is understanding the connectivist model, which is how these network theories really work in cognitive psychology. The other thing where cognitive psychology and AI would interact is in terms of how patterns are recognized, or how artificial intelligence system uses the concept of the brain in terms of making cognition sort of it. So this is how you can progress. So you can probably look at those network theories which define how artificial systems are more realistic in terms of decision making. All these areas will actually bring you into that scope or that arena where cognitive psychology and AI interact. Again, for you too, I would suggest that within cognitive psychology, what particular field or what particular area you have a bent, and then maybe we can pinpoint a problem for you, or rather more specific problem for you can be formulated. Khushi Kumari, so Brain. If you can expand on this one single word, I'll be able to answer your question in a much better way. Now, for those other people who are here with me, and as I was saying, if you don't get a chance to answer or don't get an answer to your questions, or don't get a chance to ask a question to me, don't worry. We have 2 more live sessions which will follow from here on. You can be there and ask your questions, or you can post a question into the forum and somebody will take care of the question and provide you with the answer. Let's say that you don't get satisfied with those answers that you're being provided to you on the forum, because these are research scholars who generally give you the answers to questions. You can write directly to me an email, providing some time, and I will reply to your email and a proper answer, or a more satisfying answer for you on your email, or send back an answer to you through an email exchange. So all these, the open forum, this particular live session, direct questions to me, or posting questions on that response sheet, all of these are means of asking questions where I can answer questions for you. Okay. And so Sneha has a question in that I'm interested in studying cognitive psychology and AI. So how should I move forward to it? Yes, Sneha, I do understand. And the thing is, if you could be more specific in terms of what is it that you are interested in cognitive psychology? Cognitive psychology has several areas. For example, it has to do with language, it has to do with problem solving, it has to do with decision making, it has to do with logical thinking, it has to do with perception, memory, attention. All these are areas. So if you could name one or tell me one in area that you're actually interested in or you are interested in pursuing a career further, maybe we can pinpoint a question for you and see how that can be integrated with AI. Panupriya has a question, and she said that I was interested in how individuals with vision impairment perceive the world. Though I'm able to specify it for now, I'll have to read more to explore my interest area. Very good. So you want to develop a system which provides you those kind of inputs or those kind of results which a non-blinded person can. Now, for that, you'll have to look at what models exist, test and do some experiments with blindfolded people or partially vision people in the sense that cover one eye or the other eye and cover both eyes, and look at how uh, they perform on several experiments of perception. So let's say that we are dealing with form perception. So how does it work for them? Based on that and based on the responses from these candidates that you're using in your experiment, you'll get some idea as to what really happens and what kind of interpretations can be drawn from it. You can learn from these experiments, feed the data into a self-learning system, develop an AI system, which will help you in doing exactly what the blindfolded person or the partially blinded person is actually doing. And that way your system will keep on learning and will help people who are either congenital blind or blind, not by birth, but by an accident. So I think that could be one of the things. But then you have to again look at a little bit of reading and read a little bit of literature on how this works. So Khushi Kumari says that I'm actually interested in brain. So so which course is better? Will you suggest me? Um, okay, Khushi. So brain as in, are you interested in the physiology of the brain or the psychology of the brain? If you're interested in psychology of brain, uh, whatever we are doing in cognition is done by the brain. Obviously, it is done in the arena of consciousness, in the arena of the mind, but everything that you see is done in terms of the brain. If you're looking for a quick read on what the brain is, there are a couple of books which I can suggest you. And what will happen is that if you read these books, it will give you a generic idea of what the brain is, both from the physiological point of view and from the psychological point of view. Other than that, if you have more specific questions, as in which area of the brain or what function of the brain that you're interested in, if you could be pinpointing that, I could be more suggestive as in what you should be doing or what you should be reading, what literature should you be looking at, so that helps you. I hope that answers some of your queries, Khushi Kumari. And we are out of time for this session. So all those people who are listening to me patiently, I hope I could answer some of your questions. And you were a little bit satisfied with whatever answers given to you. If you're not, you could write back on the forum and we'll try and reanalyze your question, give you a more detailed explanation of wherever I missed out today. For all those people who are listening to me, it's thank you for being here. Goodbye from the MOOCs team. And till we meet again, I'll say goodbye and I'm signing off. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you, sir.